joining me now. California Congressman Adam Schiff, former House Intelligence Committee chairman, of course, and former manager of the first Donald Trump impeachment proceedings, and a member of the January 6th investigating committee. So what is your reaction to Speaker McCarthy's rhetoric in response to this, saying the House majority is going to hold District Attorney Bragg, quote, to account, claiming there was an abuse of power by the DA?
Well, it's very much like we saw during the Ukraine investigation, in which McCarthy, Jim Jordan, and other Republicans saw their role as acting as a kind of quasi-criminal defense counsel for Donald Trump. It's different now, though, because he is the Speaker of the House, and Jim Jordan has the subpoena power. They will try to use it to run interference, to try to interfere with justice in Manhattan. They'll be unsuccessful. They don't have any jurisdiction to try to compel information from the Manhattan DA. But nonetheless, they'll use it to try to play into Donald Trump's narrative of aggrievement. But sadly, this is what they do. They view their role not as uplifting the law, not as defending our institutions. They're not calling on the president to refrain from incendiary rhetoric, which could cause harm to grand jurors or the Manhattan DA. They're not doing any of those things that would normally be the responsible thing for a governing party. Instead, they're continuing to throw their lot in with his.
As a member of the January 6th committee, are you, as some of Donald Trump's critics are you disappointed that the first indictment is not January 6th or the Mar-a-Lago documents, but something that happened, initially, at least not the payments, but initially before he was president, involving an alleged affair, which some people have written off even before, which the voters wrote off before he was even elected?
I've been very critical, as you know, Andrea, of the Justice Department and the pace of their investigation of the whole multiple lines of effort by Donald Trump to overturn the election, culminating in the violence of January 6th. And had they, I think, pursued that with more urgency, they would have gone first. Presuming, and it's a big presumption, that they find sufficient evidence to charge the president, those would have been the most serious charges. And those should, in a logical scheme of things, be the first that you bring. But here we have multiple jurisdictions in Manhattan, in Georgia, with the Justice Department. They are not coordinated in the sense of, determining who goes first. And so we have this case in Manhattan beginning the process. But in an ideal world, you have, as a prosecutor, the most serious case go first with the strongest evidence. But I fully believe that the Manhattan DA needs to operate on the timetable of when do you have the evidence? Is the evidence sufficient to indict? If it is, you move forward. And that determines the timing, and that appears to be what's taking place here.
Has this criminal allegation, this indictment, already become too political? Donald Trump is raising, a fortune more than $1 million, $1.5 million or more, just on the threat of the indictment. Large number of politicians, are doing that. You're fundraising on it.
Look, I think that this is going to be certainly a political issue in terms of defending the rule of law on the one side, in terms of, I think, subverting the rule of law on the other. But the most important point for me is that this is an affirmation of the fact that no one should be above the law, that we all held to account, that this is someone who has escaped accountability now for years and years. So I'm going to speak out on it. Other people are going to speak out on it. I'm going to be pushing back against what Kevin McCarthy and Jim Jordan are trying to do in the House by running interference and trying to stop or somehow impede or discredit this investigation. That's a continuing and important part of the work I've been doing to defend our democracy.
Congressman Adam Schiff, who, of course, is a candidate for Senate in California, in the Democratic seat that's now held by Dianne Feinstein once she has left her term, which she has said she's going to not run for re-election. Thank you very much.
Thank you.